The first time Commander Vektris of the Kalon Warband saw a human take a bullet, he thought she was malfunctioning. Not dying. Malfunctioning. Like a combat drone that hadn't received the shutdown signal. But let's rewind, because this disaster doesn't start with bloodshed. It starts with the galaxy's worst assignment, which is somehow more painful. 4 cycles ago, the Galactic Council had dumped Vektris and his elite squadron on Earth. A babysitting job, they called it. Monitoring duty for a species that had just discovered faster than light travel and immediately tried to strap weapons to it. Because of course they did. The humans were classified as a Class 7 emerging species. Translation: dangerously unpredictable, emotionally unstable, and prone to what the database called catastrophically poor decision-making in high-stress situations. Vektris had led assault teams through the Krellian Nexus. He'd held the Omega Gate against a fleet 3 times his size. He'd earned 17 commendations for tactical brilliance. And now he was watching primates. "This is humiliating," Corvin announced on their first day, all 4 of his arms crossed in disgust. The Thalixian warrior looked ready to fight someone, anyone, just to feel useful again. "We're the best the Confederacy has. We should be on the front lines, not playing nanny to a species that still can't agree on basic resource distribution." "Orders are orders," Vektris muttered, scrolling through their assignment brief. "We monitor, we document, we don't interfere. Simple." "Who are we monitoring specifically?" asked Threx, their tactical specialist. Her Vorlian scales shifted from blue to annoyed purple. "A field biologist named Mackenzie Rhodes specializes in dangerous fauna documentation." "Dangerous how?" Vektris pulled up her file. "She studies aggressive predators in their natural habitats. Gets close to them. Takes notes." The entire team stared at him. "For fun?" Corvin asked. "For science, apparently." "That's the same thing for humans," Threx said, pulling up Earth's wildlife database. "Look at this death world. Venomous everything, predators in every biome. Parasites that eat you from inside. Weather patterns that can kill you in minutes. And they study it voluntarily?" "She has a doctoral degree in it," Vektris said. "A degree in suicide," Corvin corrected. So there they were, 8 of the Kalon Confederacy's finest warriors, crammed into a camouflaged observation post in what humans called the African savanna, watching a woman who apparently had a death wish. Day 1, Mackenzie approached a Cape buffalo, alone, on foot. "That creature weighs 800 kilograms, Praxis said, their youngest team member, fresh from academy. "It could crush her." "She knows," Vektris said, watching the surveillance feed. "Look, she's staying downwind, keeping her distance, using that camera with the long-range lens." "Smart," Threx admitted. "Finally, some common sense," Corvin added. Then Mackenzie's equipment bag slipped off her shoulder and hit the ground with a thump. The buffalo charged. "Not smart," Threx shouted at the screen. Mackenzie ran, dove behind a termite mound, and somehow the buffalo lost interest and wandered off. She lay there in the dirt for a full minute, then started laughing. "She's broken," Corvin declared. "Defective unit. We should request a different human to monitor." "That's not how this works," Vektris said, though he was beginning to wonder if Corvin had a point. Day 3, she got too close to a crocodile. Day 5, she accidentally startled a black mamba. Day 7, she tracked a leopard into thick brush, and Vektris nearly called in an extraction team. "How is she still alive?" Praxis asked, genuinely confused. "Luck," Threx said. "Stupidity," Corvin countered. "Maybe both," Vektris decided. But here's the thing about Mackenzie Rhodes that the file didn't mention. She was careful in her recklessness, calculated in her crazy. She knew exactly how much danger she was in at all times, and she chose it anyway. That wasn't stupidity. That was something else entirely. Week 2. Everything changed. Mackenzie was in Botswana, tracking a honey badger. Not observing from a distance. Actually tracking. Following its trail through the bush like some kind of apex predator herself. "Why?" Corvin asked the screen, as if Mackenzie could hear him. "Why would anyone track a honey badger?" They're listed in the database as unreasonably aggressive. That's a scientific classification. Fearless disposition, powerful bite force, notorious for attacking animals much larger than itself. Threx read from the file. Known to fight lions, raid beehives despite massive bee stings, and show complete disregard for personal safety. Oh, perfect. She's studying the one Earth creature that matches her energy. Vektris watched Mackenzie crouch low, examining tracks in the red dirt. She was smiling, completely absorbed in her work, unaware that she was about to stumble into something far worse than an angry badger. The poachers appeared on thermal scan first, 3 human males, carrying high-powered rifles, moving through the bush with clear hostile intent. Their vehicle was parked 2 kilometers back, loaded with illegal animal parts. Should we alert local authorities? Praxis asked. Non-interference protocol, Vektris said, though the words tasted wrong. Human conflicts are human business, even when one human might get hurt, especially then. But he kept watching, fingers hovering over the emergency transport controls. Mackenzie found the honey badger den around noon. The creature was there, along with 2 cubs, rare to see and probably why she looked so excited. She set up her camera, keeping a respectful distance, taking notes in that little waterproof journal she carried everywhere. The honey badger watched her with those dark, suspicious eyes. Didn't attack, didn't flee, just watched, like it was deciding whether this strange tall primate was worth the effort of mauling. Apparently not, because it went back to teaching its cubs how to dig. She's actually doing it, Threx said, something like respect in her voice. She's observing a honey badger with cubs at close range and not getting shredded. Give it time, Corvin muttered. The poachers showed up 20 minutes later. They weren't after the honey badger. They were after anything valuable, anything they could kill and sell. When they spotted Mackenzie, they changed direction, curiosity overriding caution. We have a problem, Vektris said, switching feeds to get a better angle. The lead poacher, a tall human with scarred hands and a rifle slung across his back, called out to Mackenzie. Hey, you lost? Mackenzie looked up, saw 3 armed men approaching, and her entire body language changed. Vektris had seen that shift before, in soldiers who suddenly realized they were in danger. Just doing research, she called back, standing slowly, positioning herself between the men and the honey badger den. You guys hunting nearby? Something like that. The poacher's smile didn't reach his eyes. Interesting spot for a woman alone. Dangerous out here. I'm aware. You see anything worth hunting? Big cats? Elephants? Mackenzie's expression hardened. Nothing I'd tell you about. The poacher's smile vanished. That's not friendly. Wasn't trying to be. This was escalating fast. Vektris stood up, checking his gear. Threx, Corvin, prep for possible extraction. Stealth approach. Non-lethal intervention if necessary. Finally, Corvin said, weapons, already in hand. Some action. On screen, the confrontation intensified. The poacher stepped closer, his companions spreading out to flank Mackenzie. She held her ground, chin up, showing no fear, even though she was clearly terrified. Humans were very good at pretending. Last chance, the poacher said. Tell us what you've seen, or we'll assume you're with wildlife. Enforcement. And if I am, then you're in the wrong place, and accidents happen. Behind Mackenzie, the honey badger emerged from its den, drawn by the raised voices. It saw the strangers, assessed the threat, and did what honey badgers do best. It attacked. Not Mackenzie, the nearest poacher. The man screamed as 15 kilograms of pure rage and claws latched onto his leg. He stumbled backward, trying to kick it off, his rifle swinging wildly. Don't shoot, Mackenzie yelled, lunging forward. You'll hit each other. The second poacher aimed at the honey badger anyway. Mackenzie hit him like a tackle dummy, driving her shoulder into his chest, sending them both sprawling. The rifle discharged into the air. What are you doing? The lead poacher shouted. Stopping you from being idiots, Mackenzie yelled back, scrambling to her feet. The honey badger, satisfied with the chaos it had caused, released the first poacher and retreated toward its den, snarling warnings. That's when everything went wrong. The lead poacher, furious and humiliated, raised his rifle. Not at the honey badger. At Mackenzie. You want to protect animals so badly, die with them. He fired. The first bullet caught Mackenzie in the shoulder, spinning her sideways. The second hit her ribs, punching through with a wet crack that the audio sensors picked up clearly. She fell, gasping, hand pressed to her chest. Cease fire, Vektris roared into the comm. All units, converge now. Authorization for hostile intervention. The poacher stepped closer, weapon still raised. Mackenzie, bleeding onto the red dirt, looked up at him with eyes full of rage instead of fear. Worth it, she gasped. Cubs are safe. Worth it. He shot her again. Stomach, then chest, then shoulder again when she tried to roll away. 5 bullets, 5 hits. The monitoring system tracked each impact, calculated the damage, estimated survival probability. 0%. Humans couldn't survive that kind of trauma. Not out here, not without immediate medical intervention far beyond what Earth medicine could provide in time. Vektris was already in the transport, Corvin piloting at speeds that violated 6 safety regulations. Threx materialized out of stealth mode right behind the poachers, her combat armor shimmering into visibility like a nightmare made metal. 7 feet of armored alien warrior, scales gleaming, weapons charged. The poachers screamed. One tried to run. Corvin dropped from the transport and caught him with a lower arm, lifting him off the ground like a child's toy. Going somewhere? The lead poacher spun, raising his rifle at Threx. She caught the barrel with one clawed hand and crushed it, metal crumpling like paper. Bad choice, she said, in perfect English. Her translator modulated to trigger primal terror. He fainted. Vektris was already with Mackenzie, medkit open, hands moving with practiced efficiency. 5 entry wounds, massive blood loss, punctured lung, possible spinal damage. Her eyes were open but unfocused, breathing shallow and wet. Stay with me, he said, knowing she probably couldn't hear him. We've got you. You're not dying today. She smiled. Bleeding out in the African dirt, 5 bullets in her body, and she smiled. Badger? She whispered. Vektris looked. The honey badger was at the entrance to its den, cubs behind it, watching with those dark, unreadable eyes. Safe, Vektris told her. They're all safe. Good. Her eyes closed. Good. Medical team arrived 3 minutes later. 3 minutes of Vektris holding this fragile human together with pressure bandages and coagulant spray and sheer refusal to let her die. They loaded her onto the transport, surrounded her with equipment that hummed and beeped, connected her to machines that did the breathing her punctured lung couldn't manage. Will she make it? Threx asked. Her earlier hostility replaced with something that might have been concern. Unknown, said Mixthar. Their Quellan doctor. Tentacles, flying across medical displays. Humans are remarkably fragile. 5 gunshot wounds, this much blood loss. That's fatal for most species. She's not most species, Vektris said. No, Mixthar agreed, reading the biodata with something like fascination. Her body is fighting. Hard. Heart rate elevated but steady. Brain activity strong. Immune response already mobilizing. She's not giving up. She took 5 bullets protecting an animal that attacked her attackers, Corvin said, joining them from securing the prisoners. 5 bullets. For a honey badger and its cubs, honey badgers are classified as dangerous, Praxis pointed out. So is she, apparently, Threx said. The flight back to base took 18 minutes. 18 minutes of Mixthar working frantically, using technology that Earth wouldn't develop for decades. Synthetic blood, cellular regenerators, neural stabilizers. The transport landed. They rushed Mackenzie into the medical facility. Vektris started to follow, but Mixthar blocked him with a tentacle. I need space to work, Commander. Your concern is noted, but you're in the way. How long? Hours. Maybe longer. The damage is extensive. She survives. Whatever it takes. Mixthar's skin color shifted to determined orange. Understood. The medical bay doors closed. Vektris stood there, still covered in Mackenzie's blood, while his team gathered around him. The poachers? He asked. Restrained and under guard, Corvin reported. I may have been slightly rough during apprehension. How rough? They'll walk again. Eventually. Probably. Good. What do we tell the council? Threx asked. We just violated non-interference protocol in approximately 16 different ways. We tell them the truth, Vektris said. A human took 5 bullets protecting an animal and its young. We intervened because allowing her to die would have been the greater violation. Violation of what? Basic decency. Praxis, still processing everything, spoke up. Commander, I don't understand. She's one human. The honey badger isn't even endangered. Why does it matter this much? Vektris looked at his youngest warrior. Because she decided it mattered. Because when faced with armed aggressors, knowing she could die, she chose to protect something that couldn't protect itself. That's not tactical thinking. It's not strategic planning. It's something else. What? I don't know yet. But I intend to find out. 4 hours later, Mixthar emerged from the medical bay, looking exhausted but satisfied. She'll live, he announced. The relief was immediate and overwhelming. You're certain? Vektris asked. I've replaced her damaged lung tissue, repaired the arterial damage, removed bullet fragments from 3 organs, and stabilized her spine. She's incredibly lucky. Another centimeter on any of those shots and all my technology wouldn't have mattered. Mixthar paused. Also, I found 3 more bullets. 3 more? That's 8 total. They kept shooting after she went down. The body armor vest she was wearing, designed for human protection standards, caught 3 rounds, but still transferred significant blunt force trauma. Without it, she'd have taken 11 bullets. 11 shots. The poachers had emptied their weapons at her. When can I speak with her? Vektris asked. She'll wake in approximately 6 hours. Her body needs time to accept the synthetic tissues and process the medical interventions. I'll wait. Commander, you need rest. I'll wait. Mixthar knew better than to argue with that tone. He retreated back into the medical bay, leaving Vektris alone with his thoughts. 8 bullets. For a honey badger and 2 cubs. The math didn't work. The tactical analysis showed 0 benefit. The risk versus reward calculation was absurdly skewed toward certain death. And yet she'd done it anyway. Humans were either the bravest species the galaxy had ever produced, or the most reckless, or somehow both at the same time. Corvin found him. 3 hours later. Still sitting outside the medical bay. You should eat something, Commander. Not hungry. You're covered in blood. I'm aware. Corvin sat beside him, which was friendship in its purest form. They sat in silence for a while. 2 warriors who'd seen too much violence, trying to process an act of violence that somehow felt different. I accessed the human data networks, Corvin said finally. Searched for similar incidents. And? There are thousands of stories. Humans throwing themselves in front of vehicles to save animals. Humans entering burning structures to rescue pets. Humans fighting off predators to protect livestock or wildlife. It's not rare, Commander. It's common. That's insane. That's human. Vektris considered this. What kind of species evolves this way? What survival advantage does this behavior provide? Maybe none. Maybe that's not why they do it. Then why? Because they can. Because someone has to. Because it's right. Corvin's translator crackled with something that might have been admiration. We fight for territory, resources, strategic advantage. They fight for things that can't fight back. Sounds like a quick way to extinction. Does it? Look at them. Thriving on a death world, spreading across their planet, reaching for the stars. Maybe fighting for the defenseless isn't weakness. Maybe it's their greatest strength. Before Vektris could respond, the medical bay door opened. Mixthar gestured them inside. She's awake, and asking questions. Many questions. I thought you'd want to handle this before she starts threatening to leave. She can't leave. She's barely stabilized. I'm aware. She's not. Vektris entered the medical bay to find Mackenzie sitting up in bed, glaring at the monitoring equipment like it had personally offended her. She looked pale, weak, wrapped in regeneration bandages, but her eyes were sharp and alert. Those eyes locked onto Vektris, then widened. "Okay," she said slowly. "Either I'm dead, or that's an actual alien standing in front of me, or the pain medication is really good." "The second option," Vektris said. "I'm Commander Vektris of the Kalon Confederacy. You're aboard our observation vessel." "Observation vessel. Aliens have been watching Earth." "Watching you, specifically." "Me? Why me?" "You were selected as a representative sample of your species for behavioral analysis during your planet's integration phase." She processed this with remarkable calm. "How long have you been watching me?" 4 cycles. Approximately 4 months. 4 months. You watched me work, eat, sleep, nearly get killed by various animals. Yes, that's incredibly creepy. It's standard procedure for emerging species. Still creepy. She looked down at herself, at the medical equipment, the bandages, the alien technology keeping her alive. You saved me. The poachers? In custody. Human authorities have them by now. And the honey badger? The cubs? Safe. All 3 returned to their den after the confrontation. Her shoulders sagged with relief. Thank God. I was so worried they'd come back and hurt them after I went down. You took 8 bullets, Vektris said flatly. 8. You were shot 5 times while conscious, and 3 more times after you fell. Your survival probability was calculated at 0%. But I survived. Because we intervened. Because we have medical technology your planet won't develop for decades. Without that intervention, you'd be dead. Then thank you. Seriously. Thank you. I owe you my life. You don't owe me anything. But I need to understand. He leaned forward slightly. Why? The honey badger attacked the poachers. It wasn't defenseless. The cubs could have escaped. You gained nothing by putting yourself between them and the guns. So why? Mackenzie was quiet for a long moment, considering her answer. Because they were going to kill it, she said finally. Maybe not right then, but soon. Those were poachers. Killing anything valuable. Destroying ecosystems for profit. The honey badger attacked to protect its cubs, but against guns, it would have lost. They'd have killed all 3. Probably sold their parts or just left them to rot. That's not a reason to die. Isn't it? What am I supposed to do? Watch? Stand there knowing I could have done something and chose not to? That's not who I am. Her voice grew stronger. I study animals, because they matter. Because every species, every individual, has value beyond what humans can extract from it. If I'm not willing to risk myself to protect that value, then what's the point of any of my work? The point is research, documentation, scientific advancement. No. The point is bearing witness. The point is saying you matter, you have a right to exist, and I'll fight for that right even when it's inconvenient or dangerous. She met his eyes. That honey badger didn't ask to be born in a world where humans hunt it for profit. Those cubs didn't choose to be endangered. But I can choose to stand between them and the guns. So I did. Vektris stared at her. This small, fragile human who'd taken 8 bullets and was lecturing him about moral responsibility from a medical bed. You're insane, he said. Probably, she agreed cheerfully. Goes with the job. Your species is insane. Also probably true. But we're the fun kind of insane. The kind that looks at impossible odds and says, hold my beer. She paused. Wait. Do you know what beer is? Our database has extensive files on human beverages and the poor decisions made while consuming them. Of course it does. She laughed, then winced, hand going to her ribs. Ow. Laughing hurts. Note to self. Wait longer before finding things funny. Mixthar appeared with pain medication. You need rest. Your body is still healing. How long before I can leave? 6 days minimum. Possibly longer depending on tissue integration. 6 days? I have research to do. Grants to report on. Field work that can't wait. You were shot 8 times, Vektris reminded her. The field work can wait. But, rest, Miss Rhodes. That's an order. You're not my commander. In this medical bay, I absolutely am. She glared at him, but settled back into the bed. Fine, but I want my notes, and my camera, and access to my research files. We'll see. That's not a no. It's not a yes either. She smiled. That same expression she'd worn while bleeding out in the African dirt. I like you, Commander Vektris. You're bossy, but you saved my life, so I'll forgive it. How generous. I know, right? Her eyes were already drooping from the medication. Hey, Commander, one more question. Yes? What happens now? You said my planet is integrating. Into what? What's out there? Everything, Vektris said quietly. The galaxy is crowded and dangerous and beautiful. Thousands of species, millions of worlds, empires and confederacies and free systems, trade routes and war zones and unexplored sectors. And now, humanity. Sounds exciting. It's going to be chaotic. Humans are unpredictable. We prefer creatively adaptable. Her eyes closed fully. Chaos isn't so bad, Commander. Sometimes it's exactly what the universe needs. She fell asleep mid-thought, leaving Vektris standing there with more questions than answers. Corvin appeared in the doorway. The Council's response came through. They want a full report. Of course they do. They're also sending additional observers. The incident has been classified as significant behavioral deviation requiring enhanced monitoring. Translation? They think she's fascinating. They want to know if all humans are like this. Vektris looked at McKenzie, sleeping peacefully despite having nearly died hours earlier, already planning her return to fieldwork. They are, he said. That's what makes them terrifying. And somewhere in Botswana, a honey badger curled up with its cubs in a den that should have been a grave, alive because one human decided 8 bullets was an acceptable price for doing the right thing. The galaxy, Vektris realized, was about to get very interesting. Mackenzie Rhodes woke up on day 3 of her recovery to find Commander Vektris standing at the viewport, staring out at the African landscape below with the expression of someone deeply regretting their life choices. You look like you've been arguing with someone, she said, her voice still rough but stronger than before. He turned, clearly surprised she was awake. The Galactic Council. They've read my report on your incident. And they want to meet you. Mackenzie blinked. Excuse me? The Council. The governing body that oversees relationships between star-faring species. They want to speak with the human who took 8 bullets for a honey badger. He sounded exhausted. Apparently, your act of what they're calling suicidal altruism has sparked a debate about humanity's readiness for galactic integration. Suicidal altruism. That's what they're calling it, among other things. The Vorlian representative called it tactically incomprehensible. The Thalixian delegation argued it showed dangerous emotional instability. The Quellan observers labeled it unprecedented protective, behavioral patterns worthy of intensive study. Mackenzie sat up carefully, testing her range of motion. The regeneration treatments were working faster than she'd expected. What do you call it? Brave, Vektris said simply. Stupid, but brave. I'll take it. She swung her legs off the bed, ignoring Mixthar's alarmed chirp from across the medical bay. When do they want to meet me? 2 weeks. Enough time for you to fully heal and for us to prepare you for first contact protocols. First contact? I thought Earth governments already knew about you. They do. But you're a civilian. The protocols are different. There are rules, procedures, cultural sensitivity training. Sounds boring. It's necessary. Still, sounds boring. Vektris looked at her with something that might have been amusement. You're impossible. I've been told. She stood, wobbled slightly, then steadied herself against the bed. So, what happens in the meantime? I'm guessing I can't just go back to my regular life. Correct. You'll remain here under observation until the council meeting. We'll provide accommodations, access to your research materials, and anything else you need. Can I go outside? Absolutely not. Can I at least see the rest of your ship? Station? Whatever this is. Vektris considered this. Limited access, supervised tours only. Better than nothing. She grinned. Show me around, Commander. I want to see how aliens live. The observation post turned out to be far larger than Mackenzie had imagined. What she'd assumed was a small facility was actually a massive installation buried beneath the savanna, extending down into the earth like an inverted skyscraper. "We've been under your feet for 4 months," Vektris explained as they descended in a gravity lift. "Completely undetectable to human scanning technology. That's both impressive and unsettling. It's meant to be." The command center was a circular room filled with holographic displays, showing various parts of Earth. Weather patterns, population movements, technological development markers, all tracked in real time. "You're monitoring the entire planet," Mackenzie said, walking between displays. "Not the entire planet. That would require thousands of installations. We focus on key regions and individuals who represent significant cultural or behavioral patterns. People like me." "Yes." She stopped at a display showing her own research area, tagged with notation in alien script. "How many others are you watching?" 47 individuals across various fields. Scientists, artists, leaders, soldiers, teachers, a representative cross-section of humanity. "And you picked me because I study dangerous animals?" "We picked you because your psychological profile suggested elevated risk tolerance combined with strong ethical frameworks. You don't just study dangerous animals, you advocate for their protection despite personal cost." Mackenzie was quiet for a moment, studying the display. Who else made the list? Vektris pulled up a holographic roster. Faces and names scrolled past. People from every continent, every culture. A firefighter in Tokyo who'd saved 17 people from a collapsing building. A doctor in Somalia working in active war zones. A teacher in Brazil who'd stood between students and armed intruders. They're all protectors, Mackenzie realized. Every single person on this list risked themselves for others. Yes. Why focus on that trait specifically? Because it's rare. Most species prioritize self-preservation above all else. Sacrifice for kin, yes. For tribe or nation, sometimes. But for strangers? For other species? That's unusual. Vektris gestured at the displays. The council wanted to know if it was an anomaly or a pattern. And it's a pattern. "You're not special, Miss Rhodes. You're typical." She laughed. "That's the nicest insult I've ever received." Over the next week, Mackenzie became a fixture in the observation post. Mixthar cleared her for light activity, which she immediately interpreted as permission to explore everything. She pestered Corvin about Thalixian combat techniques, convinced Threx to show her Vorlian meditation practices, and somehow talked Praxis into teaching her basic Kalon tactical sign language. "She's going to discover classified information," Threx warned Vektris one evening. "Probably," he agreed, watching Mackenzie demonstrate a surprisingly accurate combat roll to an impressed Praxis. "You don't seem concerned." "I'm terrified. But stopping her seems harder than managing the chaos." "She's not a soldier. She's a scientist. She took 8 bullets and lectured me about ethics from a medical bed. I'm not sure. Normal classifications apply." On day 7, Mackenzie convinced Corvin to let her access the external cameras. She wanted to check on the honey badger den, make sure the family was still safe after the incident. "There," she said, pointing at the display. 3 shapes near the entrance, barely visible in the pre-dawn light. "They're still there. Cubs are bigger already. Honey badgers grow quickly," Corvin said, pulling up biological data. "Those cubs will be independent in another 6 months. Thanks to that crazy human who nearly died for them," Mackenzie said softly. "You don't regret it?" "Not even a little." She zoomed the camera in slightly. "Look at them, Corvin. They're alive, growing, learning to survive in a world that wants them dead. How could I regret that? You almost died. Almost only counts in explosives and orbital mechanics. I'm fine. You were shot 8 times. And now I have a great story for parties." She grinned at him. "Come on, admit it. You think it was worth it too." Corvin's translator made a sound that might have been a sigh. "Commander Vektris said you were impossible. He's not wrong. For what it's worth, human Mackenzie, I think you're extraordinarily brave. Foolish, but brave. I really need to get that on a shirt. Day 10 brought unexpected visitors. 3 humans in dark suits, government credentials, serious expressions. They'd been briefed on the alien presence, cleared for contact, and looked deeply uncomfortable with all of it. Miss Rhodes, the lead agent said. I'm Agent Torres, this is Agent Kim, and Agent Okafor. We're with a UN task force handling extraterrestrial relations. Fancy, Mackenzie said. Want some alien coffee? It tastes like burnt electronics, but it's surprisingly effective. Torres did not want alien coffee. He wanted answers. You've been missing for 10 days. There are people looking for you. We need to establish a cover story. Can't I just tell the truth? No. Even the part about the story. Honey badger? Especially that part. The public isn't ready for disclosure. We're working on a timeline, but it's years away, not days. Mackenzie looked at Vektris, who nodded confirmation. He's correct. Premature disclosure could cause panic, economic disruption, social instability. Or it could be fine. Mackenzie countered. Are you willing to bet your entire civilization on that? She wasn't, which was frustrating but fair. They settled on a modified truth. Mackenzie had been attacked by poachers, rescued by a private security team, and spent her recovery in an undisclosed medical facility. The honey badger incident would be documented as conservation work gone wrong, heroic, but reckless. People will buy that, Torres said. You've got a reputation for taking risks. Gee, thanks. After the agents left, Mackenzie found Vektris in the command center, staring at Earth rotation models with the intense focus of someone avoiding other thoughts. You okay, Commander? The council meeting is in 4 days. I'm preparing briefing materials. That's not what I asked. He was quiet for a long moment. This changes everything, you know. Your incident. It's accelerated timelines, shifted priorities. The council was planning to wait another decade before formal contact. Now they're debating immediate integration proposals. Because I got shot? Because you proved a point. The Quellan delegation has been arguing for years that humans possess unique protective instincts that could benefit galactic stability. Most species ignored them, called it wishful thinking. Then you took 8 bullets for a honey badger and suddenly everyone's paying attention. I didn't mean to start a political incident. You meant to save cubs. The political incident was inevitable. He turned to face her. The galaxy is dangerous, Miss Rhodes. There are species out there that would exploit Earth's resources without hesitation. Others that would see humanity as a threat to be eliminated. We need allies. But more than that, we need to understand what humanity brings to the greater community. And you think it's this? Reckless protection of things that can't protect themselves. I think it's compassion. Real, bone-deep compassion that extends beyond tribe and species. That's rare enough to be valuable. Mackenzie absorbed this. No pressure then. None whatsoever. The council meeting took place aboard a massive station orbiting Mars, because of course it did. Mackenzie spent the entire shuttle ride staring out the viewport at Earth, shrinking behind them, trying to process that she was actually in space. You're smiling, Vektris observed. I'm in space, Commander. Actual space. I'm allowed to smile. Most humans experience nausea during their first orbital insertion. I'm too excited to be nauseous. The station was breathtaking. Massive ring structure rotating slowly, docking ports bustling with ships from a dozen species. Mackenzie recognized exactly none of them, which was thrilling and terrifying in equal measure. Stick close, Vektris instructed. The station has gravity compensators, but different species have different environmental needs. Some sections might be uncomfortable. Define uncomfortable. Acidic atmosphere. Extreme temperatures. Gravitational variance. Noted. Stay with the nice aliens. Avoid the scary ones. All aliens are potentially scary, Miss Rhodes. Present company excluded. Especially present company. The council chamber was designed for intimidation. Massive circular room. Delegates seated in tiered sections. Holographic displays everywhere. Representatives from 50 different species, all watching as Mackenzie entered with Vektris at her side. She dressed carefully. Professional but authentic. Field gear instead of formal wear, because pretending to be something she wasn't seemed counterproductive. Presenting human Mackenzie Rhodes, an automated voice announced. Witness to incident designation, Theta 7. 4. Subject of behavioral analysis report 93-28. They really know how to make a girl feel special, Mackenzie muttered. Vektris squeezed her shoulder briefly. You'll do fine. A Quellan delegate, tentacles arranged in what might have been a smile, spoke first. Miss Rhodes, thank you for attending. We understand this must be overwhelming. It's definitely something, Mackenzie agreed. We've reviewed Commander Vektris's report regarding your confrontation with illegal hunters. We have questions about your decision-making process. Sure. What do you want to know? A Vorlian representative, scales shimmering red, leaned forward. Why did you intervene? The honey badger had attacked your assailants. It was handling the threat. It attacked out of fear, protecting its young. Against 3 armed humans, it would have lost. They'd have killed it and the cubs once they were done with me. But you had no tactical advantage, no weapons, no backup, minimal chance of survival. The logical choice was retreat. Maybe. But logic isn't the only factor in decision-making. What other factors influenced you? Mackenzie took a breath. Responsibility. Those poachers were human. The honey badger was just trying to survive. Someone needed to stand between them. And I was there. Simple as that. A Thelixian delegate, all 4 arms crossed skeptically, spoke up. You describe it as simple, yet you nearly died. How do you reconcile the contradiction? There's no contradiction. Some things are worth dying for. That doesn't make them complicated, just important. And a honey badger, a species not endangered, with no strategic value to humanity, qualified as important enough to die for? Yes. Why? Because every life has value. Because we don't measure worth in strategic importance or economic benefit. Because those cubs deserved a chance to grow up, and I could give them that chance. She met the delegate's multiple eyes. If that seems illogical to you, then maybe logic isn't as universal as you think. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates nodded approval. Others argued in languages the translator couldn't immediately parse. Mackenzie stood there, feeling like a specimen under examination, which she supposed she was. A new voice cut through the chaos. Deep, resonant, coming from a delegate she hadn't noticed before. Massive creature, crystalline features that caught and refracted light, seated in an observation section above the main floor. The human speaks of value, the creature said, and the room fell silent. This is Ambassador Krell of the Luminar Collective. We have observed humanity for 3 cycles now, studying their development, their conflicts, their growth. This incident confirms what we suspected. And what is that? Asked the Quellan delegate. Humans don't calculate worth, they feel it. It's instinctive, emotional, often contradictory to their own survival interests. They will sacrifice themselves for family, for strangers, for animals, for ideas. This is not weakness. It's a survival mechanism evolved on a world where cooperation and protection of the vulnerable ensured species success. That's an interesting theory, Mackenzie said carefully. It's not theory, it's observation. Ambassador Krell's attention focused entirely on her. Tell me, Miss Rhodes, if you encountered that situation again, knowing the outcome, would you change your actions? Mackenzie didn't hesitate. No. Why? Because I'd rather be shot than be the kind of person who watches cubs die when I could have helped. That's not martyrdom. It's just who I am. Who humans are, Krell corrected. We've studied your history, your wars, your atrocities, your countless failures, but also your volunteers, your activists, your ordinary individuals who risk everything for principles they can't even properly articulate. You're a species of contradictions, Miss Rhodes, capable of tremendous cruelty and extraordinary kindness, often simultaneously. We're working on it, Mackenzie said. Are you? Or is the contradiction the point? Perhaps humans need both impulses, the capacity for violence and the capacity for sacrifice. balanced in constant tension. I'm a biologist, not a philosopher. I just protect animals. You protect everything you can reach. It's compulsive. Krell turned to address the full council. This is what humanity brings to the galactic community. Not advanced technology or military strength or strategic resources. They bring irrational, beautiful, completely impractical compassion. And the galaxy needs that more than they know. The Vorlian delegate made a skeptical sound. Compassion doesn't win wars. No, Vektris said, speaking up for the first time. But it wins peace. It builds alliances, creates trust, establishes foundations for cooperation. I've fought in 6 campaigns, seen a dozen conflicts. They all ended the same way, with negotiation and compromise and species deciding cooperation was preferable to destruction. Humans might accelerate that process, or complicate it catastrophically, the Thalixian delegate argued. Possibly both, Krell agreed. But consider the alternative. A galaxy where every species calculates worth in resources and power, where compassion is weakness and sacrifice is foolishness. Is that the community we want to maintain? The debate raged for another hour. Mackenzie answered questions, defended her choices, explained human ethics and morality as best she could. It was exhausting and exhilarating, and completely surreal. Finally, the Quellan delegate called for a vote. The question before us: should humanity's integration timeline be accelerated based on demonstrated behavioral patterns? The vote was closer than Mackenzie expected. 32 in favor, 15 against, 3 abstentions. Motion carries, the Quellan announced. Humanity will be offered provisional membership in the Galactic Council, pending completion of standard integration protocols. Formal contact will be initiated within 2 solar cycles. 2 years. Earth had 2 years to prepare for everything to change. Mackenzie felt dizzy. The session ended. Delegates filed out, some stopping to speak with her, others avoiding eye contact. Ambassador Krell descended from the observation section, moving with surprising grace for something so massive. You've changed the course of history, Miss Rhodes. I just protected some cubs. That's what I said. Krell's crystalline features shifted in what might have been a smile. Welcome to the beginning of Earth's next chapter. Try not to start any wars. No promises. After Krell left, Vektris found her sitting alone in an observation lounge, staring at Earth through the viewport. How are you feeling? He asked. Overwhelmed, confused, excited, terrified. She looked at him. Did I really just change history? You took 8 bullets for a honey badger. History was paying attention. That's ridiculous. That's humanity. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching Earth rotate slowly below. What happens now? Mackenzie asked eventually. Now? You go home. Resume your life. Continue your research. In 2 years everything changes, but until then, normalcy. Will I see you again? Unknown. The observation post will remain active, but my team may be reassigned now that formal contact has been approved. That's a shame. I was getting used to having alien bodyguards. We're not bodyguards. You literally saved my life. Once. Don't make it a habit. Mackenzie smiled. No promises on that either. Vektris walked her back to the shuttle, their footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. At the airlock, he stopped. Miss Rhodes, before you go, I need to say something. Ominous opening, Commander. When I was assigned to Earth, I thought it was punishment. Babysitting duty for a dangerous species that hadn't earned star travel. I was wrong. About the dangerous part? About the babysitting. You don't need protection from the galaxy. The galaxy needs protection from what you'll become. He met her eyes. Humans are going to change everything, Miss Rhodes. Your compassion, your recklessness, your absolute refusal to calculate worth before offering help. That's going to spread like a virus through established systems. Is that good or bad? Both, probably. But it's necessary. The galaxy has been stable for too long, stagnant. Humanity is going to shake things up. No pressure. Massive pressure. But I think you can handle it. Because I took 8 bullets for a honey badger. Because you'd do it again without hesitation. He extended his hand, human style. "It's been an honor, Miss Rhodes." She shook his hand firmly. "Stay safe out there, Commander, and if you're ever back on Earth, look me up. I'll show you more honey badgers. I'll pass. Coward. Survivor." She boarded the shuttle, found her seat, strapped in. As Earth grew larger in the viewport, she let herself process everything. The bullets, the rescue, the council meeting, the future waiting 2 years ahead. Somewhere in Botswana, a honey badger was teaching its cubs to dig and fight and survive. They didn't know they'd changed galactic history. Didn't know their mother's protective fury and Mackenzie's reckless intervention had accelerated Earth's integration by a decade. They just knew they were alive. Sometimes, that was enough. Back at the observation post, Vektris filed his final report. 8 pages of tactical analysis, behavioral observations, and cultural assessments, all building to a single conclusion. Humanity was ready. Not because they were peaceful, not because they were advanced, but because they possessed something the galaxy desperately needed and didn't know how to ask for. Hope. Ridiculous, impractical, completely illogical hope that things could be better, that lives mattered, that standing between cubs and guns was worth 8 bullets. The kind of hope that made you take a bullet for a honey badger. The kind of hope that might just save the galaxy. Corvin found him staring at the completed report. Thinking about her? Thinking about all of them? 47 individuals who'd throw themselves in front of danger without calculating the odds. What happens when there are billions of them out there among the stars? Chaos, Threk said, joining them. Progress, Corvin countered. Both, Vektris decided. Definitely both. 2 years later, when the first official contact ships descended to Earth, when humanity learned they weren't alone, when everything changed forever, the story spread quickly. The human who took 8 bullets for a honey badger. Some species found it inspiring. Others found it disturbing. Most found it typically, inexplicably, impossibly human. And somewhere in Botswana, 3 honey badgers were living their lives, completely unaware they'd become the most famous badgers in galactic history. Which was probably for the best. Honey badgers, after all, don't care. But humans? Humans cared enough to take 8 bullets. And that, the galaxy was learning, made all the difference.